Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 475 for the 26th of November 2017. Richard Saunders here with you from a warming up, a slightly muggy Sydney, Australia. 27 today, I think, is the forecast. Coming up on this week's show, we take you back to, well, before the Australian Skeptics National Convention, just held last week. And before the convention, we had a big social gathering at the Occidental Hotel here in Sydney at Wynyard, where we crammed many skeptics into our room where we normally have skeptics in the pub. And, of course, Mayanrd was there with his microphone running around the crowd getting thoughts and opinions on all sorts of matters. Joining Mayanrd for a quick chat are people like Heidi Robertson, Eran Segev, Joanne Benhamu, Trish Hann, Dr. Brad McKay, Jessica Singer, Beth Place, Paul Gibbs, and a mixture of other people. And that was a really good night. Everybody had a lot of fun that night. It was just good to get together and have a social gathering before the convention. After that, it's a report on the Skeptics Awards, the Australian Skeptics Awards that were handed out at the convention, the Ben Spoon and the Skeptic of the Year. Then join us as we head up to the Blue Mountains, to Wentworth Falls, west of Sydney, for the first Blue Mountains Skeptics in the Pub. A quiet gathering at a local hotel where we chat to some of the locals about local issues. What are the skeptics thinking about up in the Blue Mountains west of Sydney? And if you're interested to see where we were meeting, I'll put a map link in this week's show notes. Then to round off the show, a story that was very hot at the convention, where the enemies of reason, we might say, I think somebody, was it Isaac Asimov called these people the enemies of reason? The anti-vaccination crowd were using the City of Sydney Council's What's On website to promote an anti-vaccination event. And Skeptical Action, over a very short period of time, got that listing removed. Find out that story at the end of the show. Now here's some good news. On the 19th of December, Mayanrd and Tim Ferguson are having another live Bunga Bunga recording at the Harold Park Hotel. I think it's called A Very Bunga Christmas or something like that. If you want to come along, last time we did that a few weeks ago, it was a lot of fun. Just head to maynard.com.au for more details. And if you're in Sydney on the 19th, come along and be part of the live recording. Lots of fun, silliness, craziness, typical Mayanrd and Tim. Thank you to those people who chatted to me at the convention and asked me about Henrietta and Maud. They're fine. In fact, they've just had their breakfast as I record this. They're normally at the door, but they're not. I think they're finishing off their breakfast. And we've had them on a diet. Oh, yes, they've been on a bit of a diet. And how do you weigh cats to make sure that they're keeping up with their diet? Well, we've discovered a way. What we do is we put them into a shopping bag, like one of the ones you can get these days, which are sort of cloth or something like that. And they like jumping inside bags. And then we use a luggage weigher, and we can weigh the cats. And I'm pleased to say that they've lost a little bit of weight each, which the vet said they should do because they love their food too much, I think. So there's a tip for cat lovers if you want to weigh your cat. Get a shopping bag and a luggage scale. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. I'm going to, and I didn't get to do this last week because it was the live show, of course. I'm going to run downstairs. And being the morning, it's time for some nice brown bread toast with avocado and poached eggs and pepper. And maybe some, I better go out for all this. Well, I'm contemplating exactly what I'm going to do. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
It's a big weekend for Skeptics this weekend. I am immediately on the scene as I heard there may be free drinks at the bar. Turns out I was wrong, but still, we have people working hard here to give us drinks. It's going to be a big night. We've got people from America. We've got people from the UK all doing their big skeptical thing. Look, I'm at the bar. Richard Saunders. Hi, Richard. Going to be a big weekend?
It's already a big weekend, Maynard, and it hasn't even started.
Look, I don't want to talk to you because there's some people here from South Australia. Buggy, these are people from the Rust Belt. When was the last time you went to the Rust Belt?
He's wearing a Rust Belt. Well, it wasn't. Well, there you are. Now, who have we got here?
My name's Paul Gibbs. I'm from Pinaroo in South Australia.
And
Beth Place, same Pinaroo from South Australia.
Okay, now what do you guys do in Pinaroo? You said it's a sheep area. What do you do there?
I actually work on a spud farm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes, depends, yeah.
And what do you do there?
I work at the On The Run service station.
Oh, right. Oh, wow. You don't get the night shift, do you?
No, I did that for 2 years. That was enough for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, here's something. How terrifying is doing the night shift at a 24-hour service station in rural South Australia?
It's not so bad, luckily. You only get some random drunks. We've only had one real problem.
Wow, okay, well, one's all you need, but I'm glad you did well then. Now, you've been dragged along as a fellow traveller here. You're the one that's done the dragging. Why have you decided to come to Skepticon this year?
I had to come and explore. I'm from the outback, and there's not a lot out there. So we had to come and discover the rest of the world, see where everybody else comes and does things,
The thing that I have to ask you, and my friend Jay Katz often speaks to people, he gets out into the bush and that, he says that in the wider community in the outback, there's a great belief in the paranormal because they kind of see it every day, but they just get on with their work. What do you think's going on there?
There's a big belief in the outback, but I think it's because nobody questions it. It's their grandfather told them about it. Why would you question that? What kind of a person...
Look for the information, yeah.
What kind of a person argues with their grandfather about something their grandfather saw with their own eyes?
That's true, yeah.
We don't do it. We just accept it. And I'm about questioning everything. So even if my grandfather says to me, oh, look, we were going to sell the house once, but then the measurements for kilometres to miles all changed over, and we realised we lived too far out of town to sell the house. Right?
Okay.
And I accepted that for years as a child. They didn't sell the house because suddenly they lived too far out of town. Nobody would buy it.
Right.
They lived the same distance out of town, but I never thought about it because my grandfather told me. So it's that mentality.
And what's your interest in skepticism?
I was religious. I was brought up religious.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But when I was about 15, I sort of figured out everything was a bit wrong. So I talked to the priest, but I was accepted as an atheist. I told my priest, and he was fine about it. My parents were fine about it, so I just went on like that. I've never really fought it because I've never had to.
Well, did you have a deconversion moment where there was a moment where all the evidence added up and you went, hang on a minute, do you remember what that was?
The dinosaurs.
Because they told you they didn't exist, or Jesus was with them?
But you can see that there are dinosaurs because of the fossils, so obviously it did happen. So that's when I pretty much went, well, that's an obvious hole. And then I kept finding obvious holes, and I told my priest, and he said, well, that's what you believe, so that's what you believe. So I told my mum I don't want to go to church anymore, and she said that was fine.
Oh, wow, that's cool, because sometimes parents can be tough, particularly at Christmas dinner.
Mum was very good. She's very accepting that we're not religious at all.
Great.
She's not fussed about it at all.
Well, we've got a lot of top-line atheists from around the world to meet here this weekend.
Yeah.
Is there any particular talk you're looking forward to going to?
I'm looking forward to Cara Santa Maria and Dr. Carl, of course, Australian classic. He's like a fine wine. I think he just gets better with age.
Yeah, you said you used to listen to me back on the radio back in the day, and of course Dr. Carl was on Triple J when we went national as well.
Yeah, I've been listening to Dr. Carl on the radio for, it'll be close to 20 years now, and he just opened my eyes to a new world, week by week, hour at a time. And slowly chipped away, and over the past 10 years...
Got any questions for him? If you've got any scientific questions or of a doctoring nature, you should rev them up, because Dr. Carl's happy to take them on the spot, yeah?
Yep.
Is there anything you actually want to experience this weekend? Since you've been dragged along here, you might as well have a request of some sort.
I'm just going with it, to be honest.
Fair enough.
To be honest, I'm one of those ones that just... I can't fight it, so I just...
Look, it would be great sitting... Oh, no.
I like the information. I want to know what is real.
A few people know. I actually really like Ancient Aliens. I love that show, Ancient Aliens. Yeah. Because when I was a kid, I read the Eric Von Daniken. It was fantastic. Yeah. I can see you guys are losing your opinion of me, so I better move on.
No.
You too.
It's going to be wild. Oh, look, and of course everybody's gathering. All the people are rushing. Everyone's hushing. Everyone's flushing their alcohol at the bar. Who have we got here?
It's Heidi.
Heidi, are you excited about doing a live show tomorrow?
I am so excited. I'm probably a little bit underprepared, but yes, I'm very excited.
I remember last time you did one, I think, which was at a Skeptics in the pub. You were yelling and exciting. You were going nuts.
I was.
You're a bit nervous, but you're going crazy.
I think I had those chemtrail signs with me, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And, I promised to give you one. I must...
Look, whenever you get round to it, what is the big woo up north at the moment, around the rivers area?
It's always vaccination, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
It's always about...
I thought they might have had some new signs about something.
There's a new film coming out called I can't remember what it's called. It's about homeopathy, and Blackmore's actually is sponsoring it, I think, to show at a local bar and cinema in a couple of weeks' time. So I might pop along to that and see.
Now, I know Blackmore's do vitamins. Do they do homeopathy products as well?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's interesting because Blackmore's always come up as one of the most trusted Australian companies when they do brand surveys, and I find that's interesting. Well, they're New Zealand as well, but you know.
Well, it's a huge market, isn't it? Supplements and vitamins, and they're making the most out of it, aren't they? They're making a buck.
Hey, have you actually ever taken any? I at the moment, I'm taking a vitamin B one that dissolves in the morning because I like the fizzy colour, and it makes it feels like it's something pharmaceutical and evil going on because it fizzes, and I drink it and I go, ah.
Yeah, and it's especially a very good placebo effect when you've got a hangover.
Oh, is it really? So it's mainly the placebo, hey?
Well, I don't know if it is or not, but it certainly makes me feel better after
It's not like just taking a tablet. You've got to do an action, and it's almost like... now, what is it before they had chemistry? It was like... what is it when you... it's almost like when you're summoning the metals like they used to
alchemy.
do. Yeah, it's like vitamin alchemy.
Vitamin alchemy. Yeah, the whole fizzy motion and the little bubbles up your nose and all that sort of stuff. It makes you feel like it's really doing something.
Look, well, you'll be glad to know that I'm actually doing something with Real Pharma. I know we have a lot of Americans that have flown a long way here today. I know Eli Bosnick and Tom and Cecil will be tired. So on behalf of the Australian government and our socialised medicine, I've brought them some Ritalin that will kick, and I hope that will help them through the show tomorrow. I thought that's the least we could do. Also, I could rub it in their face because we can get $200 for $10, and it costs $3,000 over there in America,
really?
Probably, yeah.
Well, as long as he didn't bring them some horny goat weed, because I don't think they need any of that.
Yeah, well, that kind of guy. Cecil is a horny goat weed.
I can't argue with that.
Yes, we'll look forward to meeting these guys, and I'm going to hold the packet up and wave it at them as they arrive.
Absolutely, can't wait.
Look, I think it's about time the Americans learnt the actual pointy end of socialised medicine.
Oh, yeah, it's high time. I can't wait for them to arrive either because we've got a lot to teach them about.
And especially with our socialised medicine, you must be happy that a lot of the stuff the government was subsidising has been removed from ones that aren't of proven efficacy recently.
How good is that? If only they had have added chiropractic to that list, but we can't complain.
Well, chiropractic is a bit mixed because there's some chiropractors that follow different paths, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There are some chiropractors that are practicing within the scope of their abilities and within the scope of evidence-based practice, but there are still so many out there.
What's that Bowen technique? That seems a bit different.
Look, I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember what's Bowen, what's Rolfing, what's this, what's that. They all kind of, go into the same category after a while.
Well, I've got to say, one thing I enjoy after a big night of skepticking is when
a bit of rolfing?
I do like a bit of rolfing, but I like getting home. I like sitting down and I like watching myself a bit of Ancient Aliens. I like a bit of the guy with the Theocatharchus with the wacky hair telling me, without any evidence at all, that there was spacemen landing on the Nazca Plateau. I love that kind of stuff. And at night I'll go, yeah, that seems like such a clever... Yeah, well, why wouldn't they, I think to myself, but in the clear light of day,
I've heard you talk about Ancient Aliens before, and I've never seen it. So
there's been nine series of it.
Okay, well, maybe you can send me the link to one of the best, and I'd love to check it out.
The only skeptical show in terms of popularity that could be compared to it would be Mythbusters.
What?
Yes, it's Ancient Aliens is a big deal. Yeah.
Okay, I'll believe that when I see it. I'm sceptical.
I should have a chat. Hey, look, it's not very often. You come along to Skeptics and there's a guy talking microphones. Who have we got here?
Paul Roberts.
And you are now a Skeptic Zone listener and you're catching up on the episodes. What episodes are you up to?
I couldn't even tell you at the moment. Like, I'm working my way through the back catalogue. There's a lot to get through. And, you know, I have no idea.
So what dragged you into this show? Why'd you go, hey, I should be looking at this? Was it Heidi?
Well, no. I came to the 2012 Skepticon. I haven't been for a few years. Really what dragged me in probably is the live podcast from the Scathing Atheist. I listen to them. I'm up to date with them, not the Skeptic Zone. I'm up to date with Scathing Atheist, though. And, yeah, I'm a bit of a fan of their podcast.
I've got Ritalin here for Eli Bosnick because we know he's been on a long flight. He's going to need a bit of help.
I feel like Eli Bosnick on Ritalin is not a good plan. But, you know, it could be fun, so let's go for it.
Hey, man, are you bagging personal choice, are you?
I'm not bagging personal choice. I'm just worried about the Occidental Hotel and,
that's a very good point.
Don't want to get anything broken. But.
That's true. Well, Tom and Cecil, I mean, we do have to have a word to Cecil so he could say his name properly.
Oh, yeah. The way Americans pronounce the name Cecil, it's up there with I could care less, things that annoy me about what Americans say.
And aluminum.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah.
It's called aluminium because it's spelt aluminium.
Correct.
Yeah, have you got a pet peeve about Americans we can hoe into them about?
No, I thought you were interviewing Paul. You've caught me off guard.
Right. Okay, edit. But Eran, it's a really busy Friday night here. It's the meet and greet for the first big night here. As the president, how excited are you about how it's gone off so far here with the Skeptics? I know.
Is that excited enough?
What's your biggest worry about the weekend? There's lots of things that could go wrong during a conference. People complain, people make bad smells, things happen.
I'm particularly worried about the vegans complaining about the flavour of the lettuce.
Yes, the vegans are an amazing... They pack a fair bit of punch for their numbers, don't they?
They absolutely do, usually with the complaints in particular.
Look, you have a good time. Now, Tom and Cecil seem to be enjoying themselves. I have recommended to Cecil that he try the Australian drink Bundy and rum.
Yeah, I think they should try everything that we have to offer.
I do have Eli Bosnick's Ritalin here. Is he here yet?
I don't believe he is. I think they landed about now, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
they should be here in about an hour.
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm not a doctor, but I do have a prescription pad.
I'm not a doctor, but in a Skeptics conference. Really?
Yeah. Well, here's someone who, as far as holding Steve's beer goes, she has gold for Australia. That's Joanne Benhamu. How are you, Ben? How are you?
Hi, Maynard.
Joe, she is my favourite bum nurse, although now you're special.
I'm no longer a bum nurse.
Well, you're doing other things now.
I am. I've moved up in the world.
The K6 or something.
Well, these days it's more the lungs.
Well, of course, that's where all the real money is. Now, tell me, how has your lung work been in Melbourne?
Oh, it's fabulous. It's fascinating. It's depressing.
Well, I was going to say, one would imagine that because cigarettes are smoked less now, that would be less of the problem, but they have a long tail of damage, don't they?
Absolutely. Look, it's interesting. So these days I'm working in clinical trials. In fact, I may have even been doing that when we spoke last. I think I was in prostate cancer at the time. But I'm now working in lung cancer trials, and I think what's really, really interesting about lung cancer is it's actually, in Australia, it's one of the most common cancers with one of the highest death rates. And a lot of people who suffer from it are not smokers, but regardless of the reason that a person has lung cancer, it's got a terrible stigma attached to it. And I think that, we have a problem with the fact that we often will blame people for the fact that, well, you did this and therefore, look, now you've got lung cancer. And I think no one deserves to go through that experience because of, we all do things that are not good for us. But, we have people who have, lung cancers that are unrelated to smoking. I'm starting to meet people who've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, so I'm starting to see kind of the effect of asbestos. So it's quite new to me. It's an area of oncology that I haven't worked with before.
So is there a general reason why things become carcinogens for the lungs that are outside of cigarette smoke? Do they know what irritation or whatever it is that does it?
It's not necessarily an external factor. So, certainly with asbestos, we know that asbestos is a carcinogen, and mesothelioma, of course, is the result. What's been very game-changing in oncology research these days is we've moved away from chemotherapy agents. So the difference is that with chemotherapy, it essentially doesn't necessarily target the cancer in the way a lot of the newer drugs do. So we've got a lot of really interesting treatments that can target molecular changes that are found in certain types of cancers. So it's been game-changing in terms of how we treat cancer. So we can now run tests which can tell us that a particular individual has a certain gene rearrangement, and therefore we know that their cancer is more likely to be responsive to a particular drug. And these things have been game-changing. So, it now means that if we can test early on and say, your cancer is because you have this particular gene arrangement, we know that you're not going to be responsive to this drug, but you are going to be responsive to this drug. Wow. It's very early days for me because I've only moved into this area literally seven or 8 months ago, so I'm still learning a lot, but it's fascinating.
So in the lung field, is it okay that I'm still sucking on the whipped cream bulbs or not?
I don't know that we have a high prevalence of whipped cream-related lung cancer in the community, but
maybe it's not the kind of thing anyone's looking for.
That could be true. You may have hit on something there.
Okay. Look, as I like to say, I may not be a doctor, but I do have a prescription pad.
I find that disturbing.
Oh, look, who have we got here this evening?
Trish.
Trish, how excited are you to...
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, I've never been a sardine before.
Yes, it's pretty crushed in here, isn't it? And, of course, we've got everyone's favourite doctor. Hello.
Good evening, Maynard.
How are you, Brad? Now, look, I realise we've got some Americans here, so to introduce them into the joys of socialised medicine, I've brought some Ritalin along for Eli Bosnick. Is that okay with you?
That sounds fine. Is it homeopathic?
Yeah, if you take enough of it. Oh, hang on, no, if you take a small amount of it, yes, probably, yeah. If I wave the packaging at him, yeah.
We will dilute it down.
Look, because he's getting off the plane. Look, as you know, I'm not a doctor, but I have got a prescription pad.
A description pad?
A description pad, yeah.
I describe drugs.
Sometimes it works when the pharmacist hasn't been to all 3 years of his degree. Sometimes you get a first year. But looking around, how would you describe the skeptics in the room? What do they look like to the outsider?
There's a very predominant gender.
Yeah, there's a fair few trans people here, I'll give it that.
There's a very predominant race.
Yeah.
It's a lot of friendly-looking people all chatting, and as you can hear, it's like a library in here.
Yeah. And what have people been saying to you tonight, Brad? Of course, because you one of the big faces in the Yes campaign that we saw locally. I saw you posting stuff. Although I assume it was like the Yes vote. It wasn't your light bill or something, was it? You were posting in the post box.
It was.
I saw a photo of you smiling and putting something in a post box. I assume.
I'm happy to be a Yes voter. It was a momentous day this week for Australia.
Do you think there's a sceptical angle in that?
Well, there was so many weird things that were in the media. There was so much debate that wasn't true, that was just casting a cat amongst the pigeons when it came to the No campaign. So I think from a sceptical perspective, actually having some truth and speaking some science and talking about the reality that we do have gay people in the world. We do have gay men and lesbian women who are in relationships.
I've been waiting for this for the 90s. What's the strangest thing you saw as part of the No campaign that they were trying to fly?
My biggest thing with it is that I don't think you can come to a position of homophobia by using skepticism or science. It's very at odds to each other. I think if you truly believe in science and you truly believe believe in reason, then you cannot be a homophobe.
Oh, thank you very much. Look, sorry, that was my drink arriving. And of course, as a skeptic and someone who believes in science, can you talk someone out of a homophobic position using science and reason?
Well, I think you can certainly talk about the debates and talk about what the truth is and what the science is. From my perspective, being a doctor, I have a lot of gay men, I have a lot of lesbian women, and lots of trans people as well who I see every day. They're living and breathing this debate, and it's part of their life. I work to make sure that they're looked after, and I'm on the front line when it comes to caring for these people. So it's really horrible to see people speaking against them and just speaking like plain things that are wrong. But if somebody's already got their view and they're not willing to move from that, you're really stuck. If they're not willing to listen or understand what people are going through, not willing to get into their shoes, it's a real big problem.
And what are you looking forward to this weekend here at the conference? What's going to be the big skeptical blowout thing for you where you go, yeehaw? And now, didn't you make that noise?
Yeehaw! I am looking for my yeehaw moment. I suppose I'll be on stage a couple of times speaking about talking to the media and getting out there, whether it's the Yes No campaign or anything else that's happening in health. Looking at peeling back the curtain, I suppose, and seeing what's happening behind the scenes of media. That's a big thing for me.
Well, I'm very much part of the whipped cream bulb lobby. There won't be any anti-whipped cream bulb action this weekend, will there?
Well, maybe on the Saturday night.
Oh, okay, fair enough then. And what are you looking forward to with the weekend? What's the big skeptical thing that'll make you do your yeehaw moment?
Well, you might hear a few yeehaws during Cara Santa Maria's talk, I think, from me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward.
Look, I'll give a standing ovation to a haircut, basically. I mean, that's pretty good. It's functional, looks good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
She's a good-looking woman.
Yeah. Oh, but that's the haircut, because I would like that haircut.
Oh, it's jealousy.
Yeah, it's a jealousy envy thing. I mean, not that I want to take it off of it. I'm thinking, I can't do that haircut, and I want it.
I say, give it a go.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up shaving my head at 16.
That's right. I'm in transition to a new haircut as we speak. And as you can tell, things are getting pretty wild here. No, it's all right. It's all my own joke. Things are getting pretty wild here. The night's getting very late here with the Skeptics. There's Jessica laughing uncontrollably, because lawyers do that when they're nervous, don't you?
Absolutely. I get hysterical. But it's not the night of the living dead. It's very lively.
Yeah. When you want to know where the party's at, where you want to know where it's all going on, where you know where the wild stuff's going down, you probably don't talk to Richard Saunders, but I'm stuck talking to him anyway. Richard, we're in a bit of an alcove here at the end of the Friday night where it's all gone a bit Rupert Sheldrake as it goes later in the night, you know.
Rupert Sheldrake?
Rupert Sheldrake. You know the one. He's the guy that thinks that dogs go to the door when their masters are coming home. And he thinks he's also the one who wrote The Science Delusion.
I think my two cats are now at the door waiting for me to come home. That's what I think. Now, what a great evening.
They're also on the internet. They're actually watching the next season of Doctor Who, and they won't show it to you.
I think they're probably hacked into the security cameras here to look for me. No, what a great evening it is. A wonderful kick-off for the convention, and I can't wait for the rest of the weekend.
I tell you what, I've had a chat to Cecil, whose real name should be Cecil, but we'll get into that tomorrow. I've been looking for Eli Bosnick. I've had some special presents for him, and he hasn't quite turned up yet, but he's a vegan. So he's got off the plane, Eli, and he wasn't able to eat a lot on the plane being a vegan, and now he's looking for a great vegan restaurant in Sydney, in the middle of Sydney, at this time of night on a Friday. I mean, they do exist, but he's going to have to look hard.
I think there's there's some around here run by meat eaters, but I don't think he's going to have any luck.
And so what have I got to keep my eye on the ball with this weekend, Richard?
This weekend we have the Skeptic Zone live, of course, and listeners have heard it already last week, in fact. So, listeners, this is all time distortion. We're doing things completely out of sequence. That's going to be a lot of fun. You've got to be on the ball to introduce that show and be our roving reporter in the audience.
Now, it's a Friday night here, and my secret shame, and you know this, is that I like to, on a Friday and Saturday night, watch the History Channel on Foxtel here in Australia. And, of course, they usually have NASA's unexplained UFO files, or they have alien invasion UFO files, or more likely they have the Farkas with the wacky hair doing alien Ancient Aliens, because I love that. I love that show. Now, that's a secret shame, but I say it proudly. I love it. I just wait for Eric von Daniken to come on and go, all right.
I've watched that, but then I watched Ancient Aliens Debunked on YouTube, and that blew my mind.
That's true. And look, have a look at that. The problem is at the end, he debunks it the wrong way, but it is worth a look anyway. Yes. He debunks it and said, all this ancient alien stuff is rubbish. It's actually God.
Yes.
And in the background, you can hear some kid going, boo! And on that note, I'm going home to watch some paranormal television.
All right, good night, Maynard.
The Skeptic magazine, the journal from Australian skeptics. Subscribe online to the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. Visit www.skeptics.com.au and click the publications link. You can also find there over 30 years of back issues free to download. The Skeptic, the magazine from Australian skeptics. From the website of Australian Skeptics at skeptics.com.au, written by Tim Medham, published on the 19th of November 2017. 2017, Bent Spood to NICM. Skeptic of the Year, Christine Bayne. Every year, Australian skeptics hand out a range of awards, some positive and the not-so-desirable Bent Spood. This year's winners include a couple of key campaigners against pseudomedicine and one university-based proponent of pseudomedicine. The awards were made at the formal dinner on November the 18th for the Australian Skeptics National Convention, which this year was held in Sydney. The Bent Spoon is awarded to the proponent of the most preposterous piece of paranormal or pseudoscientific piffle of the year, and this is one of the least desirable prizes in the country. Past winners have included Pete Paleo-Evans, the CSIRO's head Larry Marshall, the ABC, for the television show Second Opinion and The New Inventors, the Pharmacy Guild of Australia, the University of Wollongong, and a psychic dentist. But sadly, not everyone can win. Dishonourable mentions this year include the Newcastle City Council for giving the keys to the city in July 2017 to Jackie Gillies, quote, a successful psychic and businesswoman and reality TV star, end quote. ABC TV's Landline program for a segment on biodynamic farming, how to plant crops by the moon. Dr. now suspended John Peace for anti-vaccination activities, assisting parents to bypass the no jab, no pay legislation and providing letters of exemption so their children can avoid otherwise compulsory vaccinations. And Aquapol, a company that makes expensive devices which are claimed to exorcise rising damp from your home using energies unknown to science. In fact, this year's winner were themselves a past unsuccessful nominee. Quote, they tried hard last year, in quote, said Eran Segev, president of Australian Skeptics Inc. Quote, on their website they promoted debunked and disproven alternative medicine cures by giving them credence via a university setting. These include homeopathy, spiritual healing, aromatherapy, crystal healing, therapeutic touch, and energy medicine. The site even indirectly suggested that rhino horn could be used to treat hot blood, although thankfully that was taken down after we highlighted it in this year's awards, end quote. So we're happy to announce that the winner of the 2017 Bent Spoon is the National Institute of Complementary Medicine at the University of Western Sydney. Well done. You missed out last year, but you've hit the heights in 2017. Thornet Award. Known as the Fred, the Skeptics Thornet Award for the Promotion of Reason commemorates Fred Thornet, a Tasmanian skeptic who died in 2009. This award acknowledges a member of the public or a public figure who has made a significant contribution to educating or informing the public regarding issues of science and reason. The award includes a cash prize of $1,000. Eran Segev said, quote, "This year's Fred goes to someone who has consistently provided intelligent and informed response to a wide range of pseudo-medical claims. While he might bemoan the fact that he will probably have a face-slap image on his tombstone, the Thornett Award is a more positive image for this year's winner, Dr. John Cunningham." End quote. Skeptic of the Year. Another positive award from the Skeptics is Skeptic of the Year, given to those in the skeptical community whose efforts go above and beyond what can reasonably be expected of committed campaigners. There are many people working away behind the scenes doing great but often unacknowledged work on behalf of the skeptical movement, particularly in the high-profile area of confronting the anti-vaccination movement. This year's Skeptic of the Year goes to Christine Bayne for her continued work in developing an unparalleled catalogue of activities of the anti-vaccination movement, particularly the tour of Vax, the anti-vaccination film noted for its secret screenings behind closed doors, and for her ongoing role in fighting pseudomedicine generally. Christine works tirelessly out of her country home, far from the day-to-day hustle of the anti-vaccination movement, and yet she is a key player in the battle with the forces of ignorance. And that overview of this year's awards from Australian Skeptics can be found at skeptics.com.au, and I'll link that page in this week's show notes.
Hi, this is Dr. Pamela Gay from Astronomy Cast. Each week, Fraser Kane and I take our listeners on a fact-based journey through the cosmos. With our weekly podcast, we explain not just what we know, but how we know what we know about this universe that we share. Check us out at astronomycast.com and look for us in iTunes, Google Play, and wherever you download podcasts. See you online.
We're up in the... Sorry? I
didn't see you there.
No, we're up in the wonderful Blue Mountains just west of Sydney at the inaugural, the first, what is it, the Blue Mountains Skeptics in the Pub. Peter Bowdtich.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, tell us about this group.
Well, this group didn't exist an hour ago because this is, as you say, is the first inaugural, very first meeting. Hopefully, in the future, we'll have lots more people here, and we'll get in the Blue Mountains, which is an area which needs scepticism more than anywhere else in Australia.
And this area is famous for yowies, isn't it?
Oh, famous for yowies. Panthers. Panthers.
We're in the front. One of the front rooms of this, what's called the Grand View. The Grand View. Where's the Grand View? I'm just looking out the window. Out that window. All right. There is a bit of a view. I don't know how grand. Maybe if we're upstairs. But it's a lovely old pub and big rooms, and we're just waiting for our chicken parmigiana and T-bone steaks and things like that. So why did you choose this one for Skeptics in the Pub?
I actually conducted research, or what's known colloquially as a pub crawl, where I started at Springwood and worked my way to Katoomba. And I just found this one seemed to be the one that had the best facilities. Like, we're in a room which has got a big TV, and so if we have meetings in here, we can put stuff up onto that. It's close to a railway station. That was one of the criteria.
Yes. And there's somebody playing a piano in the next room.
Yes. There's a sign on the piano saying you're not allowed to touch it unless you're a pianist. By the sound of things, that person is.
I think so.
But there's a lot of pubs up here, and hopefully, what I would like to do in the future is move it around a bit, because so that people from down lower in the mountains can get to things. And because one of the things I found when I lived here was people don't travel. I saw people complain that how far it was. They lived in Hazelbrook, and how far it was to go to Katoomba to do the shopping. I thought, what? It's 14 kilometres. I live in Oberon. I drive 65k to go to Aldi. You know?
Why would you want to? Folks, what I'll do is in this week's show notes, I'll put a link to Google Maps, and you can see exactly where we are up here in the Blue Mountains. And I travelled up here with Tim Medham, the editor of the Skeptic magazine, and as soon as we stepped off the train, I was regretting the fact that I didn't bring a jacket.
Yeah, I brought one, Richard. I planned ahead, actually. By the way, my beer's run out.
Almost.
Still got 3 centimetres.
Yes, it's great to be here. I enjoy. Actually, I come up to the Blue Mountains quite a lot. Actually,
are you?
Oh, yeah.
Are you looking for yowies or something?
Looking for yowies, looking for friends. Actually, no, I've got some friends who live in Katoomba, but my wife and I used to come up about every year, at least, if not every few weeks. Quite a lot. It seems strange to say every year. It sounds like it's miles away.
So we're seated around a huge, long series of tables here in one of the front rooms. Folks, you're all locals, I guess.
Hi, I'm James. I'm from Glenbrook, which is sort of local, half an hour down the road.
Yeah?
Yep.
Well, that's local.
Half an hour, yes, yeah, very close. Yeah.
And you're from?
Oh, I'm Brian. I'm from Katoomba.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's like a 10-minute drive, perhaps, from here. I guess I'm a local now. I've been here long enough. I've been here 15 years. So.
That's long enough, surely.
Yeah, it's long enough to be local,
Just.
Yeah, just. That's what I hear. It's interesting that Peter says that people don't want to travel. Like friends at Springwood who don't come to Katoomba because it's too far. And I drive my daughter there to school every day, so I'm doing it. And then I work in Richmond, so yeah, distances is nothing. You've got to travel to live up here, really.
And it's good, though, that there's a lovely train line that comes from Sydney and it snakes up right through the mountains, and we're not far from the local train station. And how long have you been living in the area?
About 30 years or so.
So I guess you're a local too.
Well, I don't know if the Upper Mountains people think we are, but we do.
Oh, there's a whole regional thing going on here in the mountains. And hello, and who do we have here?
I'm Susan.
Susan, and what brings you here?
Oh, Peter's invitation on the Blue Mountains Community Social Group or something. I haven't seen Peter for a long, long time and used to go to the same group as him in Penrith. So here we are with a new one.
Excellent. And I think
I just dropped it.
The coins were just dropping out of your purse there. I don't know what that means. Anyway, we're here for a night of just chatting about skeptical things. Tim Medham has brought up lots of issues of the Skeptic magazine, the journal from Australian Skeptics, so we keep reminding our listeners for people to have and take away. We've got some promotional checks for the $100,000 challenge, so it should be a great evening. I've even brought some spoons.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to seeing spoon bending, actually. Can you bend the forks and the knives?
I can, but I don't think they'd be happy. So the topic of the conversation is turned around to what is the biggest woo? What is the biggest area of concern up here in the Blue Mountains? And people were saying vaccination to begin with, but alternative medicine.
I think it is really alternative medicine. I really do. And, you know, the whole culture that surrounds that, the veganism and anti-vaccination. There's a little bit of the water fluoridation thing, but not that much of it. But definitely, you walk down the street at Katoomba Street and, like, above every shop, there's a herbalist or a natural therapist or
organic
acupuncturist.
Yeah.
Somebody offering some kind of massage where you just stand around and they look at you or something. It's Iridol is just. There's places across here that does it as well.
Well, I mean, you can find places like this in the city, of course.
You can, but up here it just seems to be concentrated.
It's concentrated, yeah.
And I think it's also because a lot of people are moving from Sydney, particularly inner city, to this area, so they're bringing a lot of that with them up here as well.
And is there?
It has, but that's another reason why it's gravitated here, because it existed here at first, and people are going, oh, where else can I go? I don't want to go to Byron. Where's closer to Sydney than that?
So this area is regarded by people as what, the escape from the city or something like that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's why. That's another reason why property prices have increased so much in the last few years too.
Up here too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My friends of mine bought a 3-bedroom house for $415,000 2 years ago, and it's now worth $650,000. So, yeah, it's shot up a lot.
And Peter's just left to talk to the piano player, but he was saying that where he lives in Oberon, the water isn't fluoridated. It's fluoridated in this area, is it?
Oh, yeah. It is.
Where we are now in Wentworth Falls. Oh, hello. Tim's just brought some beers in. I wonder if this beer has fluoridated. That's right.
Now that one is, I just put my finger in it.
Oh, thanks. So this is an hour or so later, and the evening's going on. It is getting quite dark outside. I'm disappointed that the UFOs aren't buzzing us just yet.
You're facing the wrong way. I see UFOs all the way. I'm facing the window.
You're facing the window. I wonder when the yowies come out, or the panther, you know.
Do they come out at night? Or it's a bit cold. Do yowies come out at night? Do they come out to go shopping?
They're covered with fur. Maybe they do come out at night.
I mean, they have to come out to go to Aldi, right? For a start, right? They're very disappointed there's no McDonald's up here in the mountains, right? So they can't go and get there.
Blaxland.
Right?
There's one in Blaxland.
Yes, way down there.
Yeah, that's right.
And they've about to open for 24 hours. They've just applied for a 24-hour licence.
What more could you want? Yowies and 24-hour McDonald's. It's all happening up here in the Blue Mountains. These are the matters that concern the local skeptics, folks. Not necessarily UFOs not buzzing us or yowies. Peter Bowdtich. Why isn't the water in Eran fluoridated? Why?
Because when they wanted to fluoridate it, there was this colossal opposition to it. And in fact, one of the first conversations I had in town with the pharmacist, where she said, look, we're all in favour of vaccination here, but never mention fluoridation or they'll attack you.
Wow.
But also there was colossal opposition to the NBN wireless towers.
All right.
Everyone wanted the NBN, but they didn't want to have to come by wireless. But when it came, none of us seemed to have died of it. They didn't object to all other forms of electromagnetic in the town, like the fact that we got our wireless that way and our TV that way.
And it's interesting that people would lump those together. Well, not surprising, I guess.
Well, I actually have three collectors for electromagnetic radiation on the roof of my house. I have the NBN aerial. I have a Foxtel dish, which I don't use, and a TV aerial, all of which are gathering the electromagnetic radiation out of the air and making it safe for everybody else.
Well, yeah, that's very nice of you.
Very generous.
It's been focused at your place.
Yeah, focused at one.
Why? That's what happened to you.
Peter's house glows at night.
You just went out to have a chat with the piano player, did you? I noticed he's playing George Harrison at the moment. I might sneak out. I'll just come around the corner here.
All the shirts have been irradiated.
This is a great old pub, folks. It's really got character. And there's a beautiful old piano there in the hallway and a sign saying don't play it unless you can really play the piano. So, as we say often on the show, if you want to start a local skeptics in the pub group anywhere in the world, it's a great idea. You don't need much. You just need a venue, a bit of food, a few drinks and some company.
Yes. And I should add, we actually have an article coming up, the next issue of the Skeptic magazine, which lays out the key criteria. And the most important criterion, good beer.
Sounds good to me. Well, and where can people read that, Tim?
Well, they can read that in the Skeptic magazine, which you can subscribe to via skeptics.com.au.
How about that?
Is there anywhere in Australia that serves bad beer?
On that note...
Kraskó Gábor vagyok, a Szkeptikus Társaság Egyesület és a Szkeptikus Szervezetek Európai Tanácsának elnöke. Mint a Skeptic Zone podcast hallgatója, bizonyára te is fontosnak tartod az áltudományokkal kapcsolatos felvilágosítást, a kritikai gondolkodást és annak népszerűsítését. Ha szeretnél részt venni ilyen tevékenységben, vedd fel velünk a kapcsolatot a www.skeptikustársaság.hu vagy az info@skeptikus.hu címen. Továbbá ajánlom figyelmetbe Facebook oldalunkat is, amit a facebook.com/Skeptikus Társaság címen találsz, valamint várunk szeretettel rendezvényeinken. Hi, this is Gábor Raskó, President of the Hungarian Skeptic Society and Chairman of the European Council of Skeptical Organizations. As a listener of the Skeptic Zone, you probably agree that educating others about pseudoscience and critical thinking is an important task. If you are eager to take part in either of these activities, we would be happy to hear from you. Don't hesitate to contact us at www.skeptikus.hu or info@skeptikus.hu. We also recommend you visiting our Facebook page, Skeptikus Társaság, or simply come and join us at one of our events.
Once again, we read the website of Australian Skeptics, skeptics.com.au, published on the 20th of November by Tim Medham. Anti-vax presentation. Sydney Council under fire. The cancellation of the listing for an anti-vaccination lecture posted on the City of Sydney Council's, quote, "What's On," end quote, site is indicative of the sort of rapid and definitive results that can be achieved by concerted and united action by skeptics. A post on Reddit alerted the skeptical community to the promotion of a coming lecture by anti-vaccination campaigner Julie Wileman. Wileman was the winner of the Skeptics Bent Spoon Award in 2016 for her PhD thesis on vaccination that is riddled with errors, misstatements, poor and unsupported evidence, and conspiratorial thinking. She was joined on the Bent Spoon podium that year by her academic advisor, Brian Martin, and the University of Wollongong for awarding her a doctorate. The promotion on the council's site described Wileman as Australia's, quote, "top vaccine expert," end quote, and said the event would address, quote, "urgent worldwide vaccination safety concerns," end quote. Quote, "government, media and the medical community are pushing more and more vaccines on us," end quote, the promotion read. Quote, "Why? Their use of phrases like pro or anti-vaccine are not helpful. It is time to have an open, honest and respectful discussion about vaccines," end quote. The promotion said the event would be held on Monday, November 20th, but did not say where. Those registering would be told only a few hours prior, in the same way the anti-vaccination film Vaxxed was announced during its recent tour of Australia. Australian Skeptics Inc. committee member Alethea Dean then passed this information on to other committee members on Sunday, November the 19th. Through Dean's actions, the skeptical community leapt into action at the prospect of a government website supporting the anti-vaccination movement. Following the alert, only a day before the meeting was due to take place, other skeptics such as the skeptical poet and anti-vax watcher Shelley Stocken and Australian Skeptics Inc. committee members Joe Benhamu and Dr. Brad McKay approached the council to have the listing removed and to alert the movement generally that this was taking place. Benhamu said she was told that, being a weekend, there was no council representative of sufficient authority to have the listing removed. But the skeptical movement wasn't closed for the weekend. In fact, there was a large gathering of skeptics just down the road from the Sydney Town Hall at the 2017 Australian Skeptics National Convention, Skepticon. A firestorm of tweets and calls from convention attendees and the broader community caught the attention of the media and the Sydney Lord Mayor, Clover Moore. Moore said that, quote, "This is entirely contrary to our values. We support evidence-based policies in the interest of our city's communities," end quote. Other noted politicians joined in the criticism, including Sydney Councillor Christine Foster and local Sydney MP and Federal Labor Deputy Leader Tanya Plibersek, who tweeted, quote, "Who approved of this idiocy?" end quote. Moore asked staff to remove the advertisement immediately. However, questions have been raised as to how the listing was approved in the first place, as it might not only have been, quote, "against the council's values," end quote, it also contravened the site's rules in that there were no details given for where and when the lecture would take place. Some of the requirements for listing are that the event must occur at a venue or location within a 7.5 kilometre radius of the Sydney Town Hall, and that, quote, "events with dates or locations yet to be announced cannot be listed," end quote. The promotion of the Wileman lecture clearly breached those requirements. Many media outlets gave themselves credit for bringing the issue to a head, but Moore tweeted that, among the many messages she received, the first were from skeptics. It was certainly a united skeptical community which set the ball rolling and kept the momentum moving until action was taken. But the removal of the promotion on the council's website is just a small start. There was still the lecture itself to contend with. Investigations are required to see if it is being held on council property, something the notice did not say. The action by the skeptical community raised one issue among many in the fight against anti-vaccination, but it indicates what can be done quickly and effectively by a united front. and should be a rally for future action. And that story comes to us from the website of Australian Skeptics, skeptics.com.au. Links in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, here's a little note from our friends down in Melbourne, Victoria Way, the Mordialloc Skeptics in the pub. They're having a meeting on Tuesday, December the 5th at 7:30 p.m. at the Mordialloc Sporting Club, which is in Main Street, Mordialloc, south of Melbourne. An update on advertising and complementary medicine regulatory reform, always a topic of great interest to skeptics. And that's going to be given by Associate Professor Ken Harvey, one of the champions of the skeptical movement. If you want to go along to that, it's the details are on Meetup, or I'll just link to that in the show notes. Coming up on the next Skeptic Zone episode, we're going to have more interviews from the Australian Skeptics National Convention. Maynard was very busy, very busy. He's always very busy at these events. My goodness me, he was wearing a gold suit, friends, this time around during our annual dinner, a gold suit. So he was like a gold flash running around with his microphone. He was very busy. Lots of those interviews coming up over the next few weeks. And here's something a little bit out of left field, a bit unexpected, but it sort of ties in with the spirit of skepticism and science and geeky nerdiness and everything like that. For some years now, I have been enjoying the web series Star Trek Continues, which is the continuation of the original Star Trek with modern actors, but it's all fan-based, and it's very good. I've enjoyed every episode, and they wrapped up the series recently with a two-parter, which was just thrilling and exciting and in the true spirit of the original Star Trek. So if you're not familiar with Star Trek Continues, it's all on YouTube, and if you like Star Trek, go for it. I sincerely enjoyed it, and the last two episodes were very good, and it tied up the whole thing very nicely. Thank you to those people who continue to support the Skeptic Zone via PayPal or Patreon. Much appreciated, and your contributions mean that the show continues, in fact. But for this week, barring any Easter eggs, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. You can be part of the show by downloading the VoiceBite app at voicebite.com and using the hashtag SkepticZone. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.
Book on how to do it. But that doesn't take away the value of the entertainment.
It's got to the stage, folks, where the spoons have come out. We're going to be doing spoon bending lessons, but before then... spoon on the beer. You can't get much more Australian than skeptics in the pub bending spoons.
Not much sadder than that, actually.
No. Oh, record that.
Wasted. That was a whole beer going right into my lap.
We're not ever be allowed to come back here now.
I'll buy you another one.
What, another lap?
Sorry, Richard.
I think